My earliest memories of hearing about God, that's kind of hard to answer because I don't remember not hearing about God. Had the good fortune of being born into a family of believers, and so God was always a part of our family. We always went to church. There was never a time when I was a child that I didn't participate in the church things. I do remember as a preschooler being in Sunday school class, and Miss Ethel Lewis was such a good Sunday school teacher, and just learning the stories of the Bible mostly from the Old Testament, but also from the New Testament. She was just an excellent teacher, and she also made the kids feel important and feel loved, and so that's a fond early memory that I have that relates to my faith. My experience with being saved has been a process. Like I said, as a child, I grew up going to church. Now, I grew up with a respect for God. I honored God. I feared God. Loving God came later. So when I was, I think, 12 years old, I felt convicted. I was baptized, and I know that I felt relieved after I was baptized. Didn't want to go to hell. Knew I had messed up and wanted to be saved, and knew that God through Jesus was the one to do that. But I didn't understand everything about it, but I understood enough that that's when I believe I got saved. And then the redemption process, the sanctification process, where I just, lose more of the old self and gain more of the new creation, that's just been a decades long journey. So when I think back to the people who have been the influencers in my spiritual walk, one of the first ones that comes to mind is my oldest kids, my twins, Sadie and Maggie, and then my niece, Tabitha. And they grew up going to church and follow the rules, and you better act right and all that kind of stuff, just like we did. But then they had some experiences at church Camp Wildwood, that took it to a new level with them. And so I remember one time my sister and I and our three kids, oldest kids, were driving somewhere on a trip. Suzanne and I were just visiting in the front seat, and they're like, "Y'all are gossiping." And we're like, "No, we're not. We're just visiting." So then we went on with the conversation. They're like, "Y'all are talking about people." And we're like, "No, we're not. We're just talking." They're like, "Yes, you are. Your conversation is talking about people." So we came to realize that when we talked, we generally were talking about people. And if we weren't talking about people, we had to think of other things to say. And it took a little bit of time. So just seeing them walk the walk, and then they were so kind to people. They loved people that Jesus came to save. I mean, they had a heart for the disenfranchised, and I had not really witnessed that so much. Now, I had some, but that's just something that stood out to me, the way they reached out to people as teenage girls. And so my faith deepened because of them. Another person I think had a spiritual influence on me is my grandfather, my dad's dad, my Grandpa Bowman. He had been an elder in the church for decades when I was a little kid. He was always fun. He was very moral. He was very respected in the community. He was a godly man. He was gentle before being a gentle man was really favored. He grew up in a harder time, but still he was very kind to my grandmother. He was kind to me. He was just a kind and gentle man. Not effeminate. He was a farmer. He tried to live like Jesus wanted him to live, I believe. And I saw that you can be in the world and not of the world, because he participated in life. It wasn't like he sat in the corner so he wouldn't mess up. I mean, he went to cocktail parties and didn't drink and was kind to people, and took us, my sister and me, to events, that social events that he was invited to, that he felt obligated to go to. He would go on time and leave early, but he went, and people were glad to see him there, and he participated, and he modeled that behavior for me. One of the main things that I've experienced because of my relationship with God through Jesus is peace. I tend to be a little bit high strung, a little bit intense, a little bit bold, and the more I have come to love Jesus and try to follow after him, the more I have been transformed, not of my own power. My own power is pride, winning, whatever you got to do, get it done, even if it's step on other people or make them feel horrible about themselves. My goals were a priority. And through the sanctification by the Holy Spirit, I, to some extent, have taken on love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. And before, I thought I had self-control as in, if I decided I was going to lose 10 pounds, I lost 10 pounds. I did not have self-control over needing to be gentle in a situation, and I was able to subdue my own emotions and be gentle because that's what someone else needed. So it's different. My self-control now is different from what it was when it was under my own power. And gentle is something that I, at least sometimes now, am able to be, and that was not really in my vocabulary. It made me mad when other people were gentle in my previous. It's not before I met Jesus, but it's before I knew Jesus the way I do now. So I knew that this was going to be one of the questions. If I could only share one thing about my faith with others, what would that be? So I wrote it down. Let me just warn you that it's 3 pages long. So it's one thing, but it's one long thing. But I just was not able to narrow it down. And so that I don't get on a tangent and go off so that it's 10 pages worth, I'm just going to read it if that's okay. I believe that humankind did not happen by chance. I believe the Big Bang happened and the universe is expanding. I believe the universe moves toward disarray or entropy. So why would a universe with a law of entropy organize into a highly ordered being that evolves to contemplate its own existence? I believe that happened because there is a being that always was, an outside influence, the I Am. Organization won out over disarray because a supernatural being or force that always was and will always be was the intelligence behind the design. It was not random. This being, God, wanted to be in a loving relationship, so he created creatures capable of love. But in order for that love to have any meaning, the Creator had to allow free will to love or not to love. Otherwise, the love would be meaningless, like a robot that is programmed to say, I love you. It means nothing. So perfection was created, but with free will. After initial paradise, freedom to choose came into play, and the created cheated and fell. But God, who is love by his very nature, had compassion on the fallen man, and after several unsuccessful attempts to get humanity to open its eyes to reality, the Creator decided to become the begotten created in the man Jesus. Jesus came to show us the way, to be the way. He said, come, follow me. I'll lead the way. I'll show you. Just do what I do. But creation messed up and had consequences to pay. Then Jesus willingly, voluntarily took our consequences. And in return, he gave us his righteousness, his perfection. He then left the creation and went back to the eternal realm of the I Am. But he knew we needed help, so he sent us a helper, his Spirit. He has shown us the way, told us the way, and sent us a helper so that we have a chance. Now we have a choice, free will. We can take it or leave it. The life of following Jesus is mystical. It's full of joy and love and peace. It's wholeness. It gives meaning to life and fills all the voids we feel. But like falling in love, G-force, floating, and free fall, some things just have to be experienced to be understood. Such is the spiritual realm. We can hear about it, read about it, talk about it our whole lives, but until we let go of everything else, and I mean everything else, we cannot experience the goodness that God has in store for us. Like someone drowning, we have to stop fighting and surrender to be saved and to experience the life that we were meant to have from the beginning. This is the good life, immeasurably more than all we could ask or imagine. So why not take the chance to find real meaning? Stop fighting, let go, relax, no holding back, all in, and experience the peace that passes all understanding. I'm Karen Jones, and this is Why I Believe.